the second day.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, dear colleagues, dear students, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the second day of our conference, which is called Through Poesis to Knowledge, the Poesis of Knowledge. And it's my great honor to welcome as a keynote speaker for today, Professor Fela Benabed from Badji Mokhtar Annaba University, Algeria. Professor Fela Benabed is a professor of global Anglophone literature and post-colonial studies at the English department of Badji Mokhtar Annaba University. In her research, she is interested in post-colonial, ecological, and medical approaches to literature. She has more than 20 years of experience in intercultural studies as part of her literary career. As a lifelong learner, she has taken courses on the use of ICTs in education and virtual exchange. And she has several publications on both literature and educational technologies. Her today's lecture is called Can Poetry Be a Vessel for Physics? So as you can obviously see, it will be an interdisciplinary talk, and I'm looking forward to it a lot because I believe that it will give us a lot of insight into how different branches of human knowledge can enrich each other and how we can learn even more from maybe the spheres that we do not expect to learn from. So, Professor Fela Benabed, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria. Can you hear me very well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So, as Maria said, my presentation today is on the link between poetry and physics. And I will start by a reference to polymaths or polyhistors. So, some human beings dedicate their lives to one passion or one profession, while others explore many interests as polymaths, also called polyhistors. The dictionary definition is a person of great learning in several fields of study. These individuals work on seemingly unrelated areas. They often find strong links between their activities, and sometimes one activity provides some rest from the other, a sort of recreation that restores their creative energy. In this presentation, I will discuss the case of those polymaths who are passionate about science and poetry, then more specifically on those who are passionate about physics and poetry. Science and poetry are often considered as diametrically opposed entities. While science is defined by its rigorous methods and empirical evidence, poetry is defined by its imaginative expression and emotional deepness. Scientists question poetry's precision and poets question science's mechanistic perspective. This view, however, constitutes a stark oversimplification of the interaction between the two fields. In reality, scientists have often been polymaths who value the power of poetry. For example, Virgil, a Roman poet who studied rhetoric, medicine, astronomy, and other sciences, wrote about agriculture in his book Georgics, an epic poem that offers practical advice on raising crops, trees, livestock, and horses, and as well as bees. The poem is celebrated for blending agricultural instruction with themes of human struggle and the beauty of the countryside. Lucretius, a Roman poet and philosopher, is known for his reflections on the nature of the universe. In his poem, On the Nature of Things, he explores interdisciplinary topics such as knowledge about the atom, functioning of the cosmos, and nature of the soul. Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna, a Persian polymath who lived during the Islamic Golden Age, made significant contributions to various fields, including philosophy, medicine, and mathematics. He used to teach medicine through didactic poems, which he considered as useful for memorization. During the Romantic era, poets incorporated scientific ideas into their poems, using metaphors and symbols to explore complex scientific concepts. For instance, William Blake's The Marriage of Heaven and Hell reflects ideas of dualism and energy in a way that parallels his time's discoveries in physics. Samuel Tyler Coleridge, in his poem *The Rime of the Ancient Mariner*, uses the metaphor of the albatross to symbolize the interconnectedness of the natural and spiritual worlds in a way that echoes early ecological ideas. John Keats, who left medicine to focus on poetry, wrote in one of his unfinished poems, quote, "A poet is a sage, a humanist, a physician to all men," thereby equating poetry to medicine. Unlike the harsh realities of medicine in the early 19th century, he believed that poetry could provide relief to a troubled world. These polymaths, among many others, transcended the boundaries of specialized study. Their ability to bridge diverse disciplines allowed the advancement of knowledge across times and cultures. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, however, the volume of scientific discoveries made it increasingly difficult for individuals to maintain expertise across multiple disciplines. Blending poetry and science became less common as science transitioned from a passion to a full-time profession. On the surface level, the two fields started to be considered as incompatible, and sometimes poets and scientists criticized each other. For the poets, on the one hand, the scientists cannot fully say the truth about the world as they destroy the phenomena they claim to study in the process of analyzing them or breaking them into their separate parts. For the scientists, on the other hand, poets are daydreamers who are caught up in imaginative possibilities and who neglect the reality of the world. Paul Dirac told Robert Oppenheimer, who are both important figures in physics, quote, "The aim of science is to make difficult things understandable in a simpler way. The aim of poetry is to state simple things in an incomprehensible way. The two are incompatible." In other words, the defenders of science suggest that it strives for understanding, precision, and clarity in explaining complex phenomena, whereas poetry embraces ambiguity and complexity, using layered meanings and emotional profoundness to convey experiences that defy straightforward interpretation. The defenders of poetry, however, often perceive the creative, imaginative poet seeking to transcribe the beauty of the world, endlessly and open-mindedly experiencing its myriad possibilities, and the scientist who reduces the world to a set of dull and lifeless rules and equations, who, as Charles Lamb said of Isaac Newton, believe nothing unless it was as clear as the three sides of a triangle. This quote by Alfred Ainger explains two distinct approaches to understanding the world. The poet embodies a boundless curiosity and sensitivity to beauty that captures the richness of a human existence. In contrast, by seeking clarity and precision, the scientist often reduces the complexities of life to empirical rules and mathematical formulas. This polarization of science and poetry, or single-minded approach to knowledge, however, is sheer loss for both, in the words of C.P. Snow in his lecture on the two cultures, referring to the sciences and the humanities. If combined, I strongly believe the two approaches to knowledge represent the multifaceted nature of the world. One nurtures our imagination and emotional intelligence, while the other grounds us in logical understanding. Today, there is a growing understanding that science and poetry can complement each other. Proponents claim poetry's ability to express abstract ideas through vivid imagery and metaphor, and to make complex scientific concepts more accessible intellectually and more compelling emotionally. Scientists are increasingly translating their research into various poetic forms as a way to share their findings. For example, Japanese physicist and haiku poet Akito Arima contends, "If I am interested in the physics, I continue to work 10 hours, 100 hours, no problem. But sometimes I have trouble solving my own questions. Nature is very cunning in hiding her secrets. In that case, I go back to haiku. I look at the other side of nature. Then she frankly tells me her beauty. I turn from physics and very detailed theory to gigantic scenery or the detailed beauty of flowers or the beautiful song of the insect. I write a haiku. Then my energy concerning physics comes back. Then I look at my problem again with different eyes. Then I can suddenly find the heart of the secret of nature. In this passage, Arima explains that when engagement with physics leads him to frustration in understanding nature, he gets a fresh perspective by writing a haiku, which is an unrhymed poem consisting of 17 syllables arranged in 3 lines. By stepping away from rigorous analysis and immersing himself in the beauty of the natural world, he is able to return to his scientific study with renewed energy. This illustrates that art and science can complement each other, and that understanding the world often requires a balance between analytical thinking and appreciation of nature. Tom Illingworth, a British poet and geoscientist, argues that many fascinating scientific facts remain obscure because they are buried in the complex language of academic papers, and that poetry is an excellent vehicle to render them more understandable and relatable. Through his The Poetry of Science blog and Consilience Science Poetry Journal, he encourages scientists to translate the results of their research into poems that can get appreciation from those outside of their immediate scientific sphere. He argues, quote, "There are so many amazing science stories out there that people don't know about because they are hidden in the jargon of scientific papers," and adds, "Poetry is a really powerful way to change that and to enable communication to take place." Before preparing this presentation, I had never fully grasped the meaning of Albert Einstein's concept of relativity, for instance, as I struggled to understand many other concepts in physics as well. Coming across this lyrical explanation attributed to him, however, made it not only understandable, but also memorable. Look at this quote. "When you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, you think it's only a minute. But when you sit on a hot stove for a minute, you think it's 2 hours. That's relativity." For me, relativity became clearer when I read this quote. And you, will you forget the meaning of relativity after this lyrical example? For me, it's quite clear, and I think I will never forget it. In fact, although physics and poetry may initially appear to be diametrically opposed, one grounded in empirical analysis and the other in emotional expression, there are points of convergence between the two. Both of them seek to understand and convey the complexities of the universe through different perspectives. Physics explores the fundamental laws governing matter and energy, while poetry captures the essence of human experience and the natural world. Each field requires a deep sense of curiosity and creativity. Physics must envision concepts beyond tangible observation, just as poetry must assemble words to evoke ideas and feelings that transcend description. Both fields hence share a quest for understanding and reveal the mystery of the world in their unique ways. I wanted to show the example of the convergence between physics and poetry through this very important Nobel Prize winning physicist who is Richard Feynman. He won the Nobel Prize in Physics, and he was passionate about poetry. He is recognized for his work in quantum mechanics and particle physics. He's also celebrated for his outstanding teaching skills, charismatic personality, and playful attitudes towards science. His poetry reveals his creative side and expresses his views on different aspects of life and science. Some of his poems have been published posthumously in his collection, entitled Perfectly Reasonable Deviations from the Beaten Track, the Letters of Richard P. Feynman. He writes, quote, "Poets say science takes away from the beauty of the stars, mere globs of gas atoms. I too can see the stars on a desert night and feel them. But do I see less or more? The vastness of the heavens stretches my imagination. Stuck on this carousel, my little eye can catch 1 million-year-old light, a vast pattern of which I am a part." This passage shows the physicist's perception of the relationship between scientific understanding and the emotional experience of nature. While poets argue that science diminishes the beauty of the stars by reducing them to globs of gas atoms, he finds that scientific knowledge can actually enhance their appreciation. He suggests that the appreciation of beauty and empirical understanding can coexist in a way that enriches our perception of the world we inhabit. For instance, you can go to YouTube and look for this very interesting poem by Feynman, "An Atom in the Universe," from which I have selected these two short passages. Growing in size and complexity, living things, masses of atoms, DNA, protein, dense in a pattern even ever more intricate. The ending is very interesting. My mortal body is indeed a universe of atoms, but I am just an atom in the universe myself. Isn't this one of the best definitions of human beings, both grounded in science, in physics, and also profoundly poetic and lyrical? Another author that I have selected for this study is Amy Catanzaro, a poet who introduced the concept of quantum poetics. She considers that poetry is an effective tool for revising and presenting complex theoretical concepts in physics. Her work combines the study of matter at the subatomic level with free verse. In her poems, she investigates whether, quote, poetic language is more capable than ordinary language of describing subatomic and cosmological scales of matter. She is mainly known for her meditation on time, as she believes that both poetry and physics have the power to question conventional temporality. She maintains that, quote, one doesn't need to be a poet or a scientist to get the sense that time is not what it appears to be. While Einstein's theory of relativity has demonstrated the subjectivity of time, she argues a poem can make a reader feel that subjectivity. First, let me give you a brief definition of quantum theory, which I do not very well understand, to be honest. Quantum theory is defined in the Merriam-Webster dictionary as, quote, a theory in physics based on the concept of the subdivision of radiant energy into finite quanta and applied to numerous processes involving transference or transformation of energy in an atomic or molecular scale. Here is a poem by Catanzaro, which illustrates the theory of quantum physics. It is entitled World Lines. This is an experimental poem in which the author features intersecting verses that allow readers to go through it in both linear and non-linear ways, creating multiple interpretations and embodying a state of quantum superposition. In this context, readers journey through the poem and experience its interconnected themes simultaneously. Word Lines contains countless potential poems. Its interconnected phrases allow readers to interpret its meaning according to the different pathways. While writing it, Catanzaro intended the creation of multiple sub-poems, but was unsure of their quantity until her collaboration with an AI specialist uncovered over 1,000 pathways within word lines, which means a kind of 1,000 sub-poems within the poem itself. Here are some examples of the different pathways, which are quite difficult, in fact, because they are grounded in physical theories about physics, sorry. Now, aspects of quantum poetics that are revealed in this poem are the following: fragmentation and non-linearity. So just as quantum physics challenges traditional notions of cause and effect, Catanzaro's poetry features fragmented or non-linear structures that defy conventional narrative forms. Sorry. The second feature is interconnectedness, reflecting the quantum idea that particles can be entangled and affect each other regardless of distance. Her poetry emphasizes the fluid exchange between different elements within the poem. And finally, multiplicity of meanings. Quantum physics posits that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously. Similarly, Catanzano's work embraces multiple interpretations and layers of meaning. Finally, considering the preceding examples and C.P. Snow's analysis of the two cultures, the sciences and the humanities, it appears that the link between science and poetry, particularly between physics and poetry, lies in their shared quest to explore and express the complexity of the world. While physics seeks to uncover the fundamental laws governing the universe through empirical inquiry, poetry captures the emotional and imaginative essence of the universe. Both disciplines invite us to contemplate the mysteries of nature by offering complementary perspectives that enrich our understanding. And by bridging the analytical with the aesthetic, they illustrate the beauty of the world and our place within it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Benabed, for this interesting, very interesting, thought-provoking, thought-demanding presentation, lecture. So we can proceed to some questions if there are any. So feel free to ask anything that was not clear or you would like to learn more about.
Don't ask me to explain quantum physics.
Yeah, if I may start, just maybe a few comments on it. For me, it's fascinating to see how some certain ideas may overlap in different fields of knowledge. For example, I've been currently reading the book of Revelations by the medieval mystic Julian of Norwich, in which there is this very nice image of a hazelnut. There is this scene in which God shows the mystic, the world as something very small that it's possible to carry in a hand, like a little hazelnut. And many critics who discuss the work, they refer to physics, like that physics today, we also learn that if we just think about the universe and how small we are and human beings and Earth, so there are really striking parallels that we can find even between mysticism, mystical knowledge, understanding of the world, and what contemporary physics tells us. So there are very fascinating parallels. And another comment that I would have is that what fascinates me in poetry is the space that there is for silence. Like much meaning in poetry for me as a reader depends on the spaces between words, the meaning that I may get from it, that beautiful essence of silence. While on the other hand, science relies on words, on precise descriptions, on factuality. And it's fascinating to see that even though these two fields of human knowledge can be so strikingly different, they can lead us to the same truth.
Exactly.
So it's wonderful. We have a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
I would like to ask which poem mixed with physics is your favorite? Maybe what is your recommendation?
Yeah, my recommendation is to go to YouTube and Google these two poems, and search for these two poems by Richard Feynman, read by Richard Feynman himself. As I said, Anatomy in the Universe, it's a fantastic poem. And another one is Ode to a Flower. Ode to a Flower, yes. It's read by the Nobel Prize winner himself, and it is beautifully illustrated.
Yeah, and if I may ask, I know that your interests are quite interdisciplinary, but why physics and poetry? How did you get to that? What was that initial inspiration? Where did you find it?
But to be honest, I'm always curious to know about the different sciences. So I have and their relation with literature. I have already worked on literature and ecology, literature and medicine. And I found interest in physics only for the purpose of this conference. It's the first time I'm dealing with it, so I wanted to explore it.
Thank you a lot. So, dear audience, please don't hesitate to ask anything. You have a unique opportunity to ask anything that is related to this topic or to literature in general.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to comment on what you, first of all, thank you for this brilliant presentation. And just wanted to comment on your presentation and what Maria has just said, something very interesting, which is reminiscent of William Blake poem, when he famously said, to see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold the infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. This is perfectly, it fits perfectly what you said, and also the comment of the hazelnut by Maria.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there any more questions or comments, observations? Right. If not, so I would like to thank Professor Fela Benabed again for her inspiring, wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Maria.
And I wish you much luck and much inspiration for your further discoveries and revelations in this field.
Yeah,
Thank you, Fela.